Dustin here with a review of the Power Rangers Legacy figure, Wave 1. I just realized I did my classic review, like embellishing view for some reason. But anyway, just real quick right off the bat, to start things, the review might look a little different. Again, there with the review. I'm having to record this on my iPad, because something's wrong with my camera, so if anything's really weird, that's why, and I apologize, and if the audio is really bad, then you won't even be seeing this, so. But anyway, since there's no sounds or anything to show in this, I think I should be safe. So anyway, let's get started like we usually do, with a look at the box, and I just realized I can actually see a little hair on top of Tommy's head. There we go. That's gross. Sorry about that. But anyway, I only brought 2 of them out of the 5 because they're pretty similar, just one for each series. So like here's Ninja Storms. They all are pretty, like I just said, similar. They're like mainly black, and then you have like colored lightning throughout here depending on what ranger color, and then like a cool artsy shot, and then it'll advertise what it comes with and all that stuff. And then it'll say, obviously, oops, the names of the ranger right there, or the name of the ranger. And then on the back it advertises the Build-A-Zord, and it shows you what's in the first wave. So that was Dustin's to represent Ninja Storm. And then here is Green's. I picked Green's because he actually just says it includes 2 exclusive accessories as opposed to having included a Megazord piece. So yeah. And then his back advertises the Mighty Morphin one, which you will need to get the second wave to complete, which is not out yet. But anyway, as you can see, and I don't know why I would just be restating this, but the first wave includes the Core 3 Ninja Storm Rangers and the red and green Mighty Morphin Rangers. And each of the 3 Ninja Storm Rangers comes with a piece to complete their Storm Megazord. And the red Ranger came with a piece for the Mighty Morphin original Dino Megazord, and green came with nothing but his weapons. I mean, you know, he didn't have the Megazord piece, and there's some, I don't want to say uproar, but controversy about like the number of accessories included to make room for the Megazord pieces. There's sort of here and there issues I have with that, but we'll take a look at that first because yes. So here's the one that is included with the Red Ranger. This is like the core body of the original Megazord, as you can see with the helmet, and they're pretty decently detailed. They're not like the best thing I've ever seen, but they're pretty solidly done. So yeah, that's all you get with that. You can move his little head around, and that's about it. I'm doing a terrible job of doing that because I'm doing it one-handed. But here actually is the completed Storm Megazord, which is actually rather tall. As you can see, he actually like kind of towers above them a little bit. But like I said, their details are solid, but they're nothing spectacular. Like you can see Blues is missing it a little bit. There's just some various missing details, but it is a decent size and pretty decent proportion-wise too, I have to say, because the Storm Megazord in particular kind of has a bulky look to it, and I think this captures it pretty well. Reds comes with the core piece, and then blue and yellow come with their arms, which represent themselves, and then each of them has a leg, and then you just put them together via ball joints, and like the armed ones are actually kind of difficult where you have to kind of screw it in, so it makes it pretty secure. The legs seem a little bit less secure, but you do get articulation, so you can actually get like a solid range of pretty much figure movement. Maybe not quite on the level of the actual figures, but you do get a good range here and some bending. Their little Megazord feet actually bend as well. Megazord feet is a technical term. And they can move their heads. His head joint's a little bit like more of a harder joint than some of the other ones, but you can move it up and down. You can move the arms. You got bending here, move the arms here as well, in and out. There's a nice ball joint there. So pretty standard, like I said, not quite on the level of the individual figures, but still pretty solid, and just overall pretty decent inclusion. It's pretty similar to the concept the Marvel and DC figures use of a sort of build-a-figure type deal. Real quick, I'm just going to grab some examples of scale. I unfortunately don't have as much as I would have wanted, and they're going to kind of be odd choices based on what I have here, but we'll just take a real quick look. Okay, so I have my scale models. Like I said, normally I would have some more traditional choices, I guess, but I'm going to bring Green forward because he's kind of standing up the most straight of them all, to give an idea. So here is a 5-inch action hero. I just chose red for that scale. I do have the Green Ranger one, but unfortunately it's just not here. But so as you can see, quite a bit taller there. Oops, did not mean to do that. Sorry, Tyler, you go look for your dad now. Here it is next to, which I also would have liked to had actual Green Ranger of, but this is the old Super Legends line from the original, like, collector chaser figures. So as you can see, also quite a bit taller than that. And then here is a figure art. The only one I had really on hand was Red Buster. But you sort of get an idea of both the scale and the sort of bulk of it, I guess. Alright, but so yeah, that's that. There's also, I really wish I would have had it, the old Super Legends. Roughly in this scale figure, they did MMPR green and then RPM black and red, and they were really neat. They weren't as well articulated as these, but they had this really great body type that was kind of like figure arts in a way that it gave them that slender look that looked really accurate to the way the Rangers looked. If that would have had a little bit more articulation, those would have been perfection. And I would honestly, if you can remember those figures, I would describe these figures as a hybrid between those and the action heroes, because I think that they have a good proportion of bulk. I think that they have that more slender look the Rangers have, but do have a little bit of that signature muscle look that the Ranger figures tend to have, and I think it comes off pretty well. And I think the details on these guys are pretty well done, and the Green Ranger figure looks really good. I think that it's probably one of the best head sculpts I've seen for a Green Ranger figure in terms of accuracy and scale and whatnot. The gold shield looks good. A really nice gold paint there. You can see here the nice details on the Morpher as well. It's not like the most amazingly intricate detail, but it's still pretty nice. That's a really awkward place to be holding it. But yeah, overall the details on him are very well done, and the articulation on these guys is very good. It's kind of hard to describe actually in a way. I mean, I guess I'll show it off here. There's a really nice ball joint here, great range of motion. I feel like I'm doing a figure art review right now. A nice joint here at the elbow. Sorry, Tori. Swiveling here at the fist. A nice ball joint here on the leg as well. Swiveling. The double joints. You have the nice little hinge on the foot. The chest is actually this like singular hinge joint, which is interesting. And then the head and neck articulation are very well done as well. Now the interesting thing about them is it's almost a hard to describe thing where I'm trying to figure out how to put this. I think that the articulation is pretty much on par with figure arts. In fact, in some cases, actually a little bit better. But the figure type, the body type feels weird, almost in an undescribable way of, it's got this free, looser feel to them, at least my 5 figures. I imagine at least some other people who have these have that, because all 5 of mine have the same feel. It's like this free, looser feel, but it doesn't quite have that cheap, oh man, this is a loose figure feel, but it's not as solid. And the reason it's hard to describe is because I kind of like the feel of this looser fit, because it seems that it makes it easier to work with, but at the same time I wish it felt a bit tighter, because it does make me feel nervous about it possibly becoming loose in the future. It's really strange with that. I wish it was a little bit tighter, but the freedom you get from the easier to move joints is kind of nice, and it doesn't make you feel like it's going to fall over, which is a good. So, like, even though it has a bit of a looser feel, with the exception of if I press down too hard, like, it never feels like it's about to, like, teeter over or something. So accessories-wise, as you can see, he does come with a Sword of Darkness, which is right here. And it's pretty well detailed. They're not quite on the level of figure arts. They're a little bit, you know, more bendable, but pretty decently done. You have right here the, whatchamacallit, the holster, that's what the word, and it comes a little, not separately, like that makes it sound like it's sold separately, but you have to put it on there when you get it, and then of course you have the little dragon dagger right here. And it's pretty decently detailed. Like I said, maybe not quite figure arts level, but pretty solid. And Tommy is the only one, unless I'm forgetting something that I would literally be mentioning seconds from now, that has alternate hands, which, stay up, Tommy. I just talked about how you don't fall over and then you get ready to fall over. Okay, where is the box? Oh yeah, the box. I'll bring it back in real quick, just to show. There's 2 extra hands in there. And they are just kind of holding the dragon dagger, maybe a little bit more relaxed hands. Other than that, they all have these generic fists, which you can see on them, which are kind of hold the weapon hand. They do kind of have a nice look where if you have them turned the way Tommy's is right now, it kind of looks like, you know, a closed fist, so it makes it a little bit less awkward, because sometimes you get that awkwardness with that. I'm actually just going to set Tori aside, and since we're just kind of going in order ish. I'll go ahead and we'll take a look at Jason, who only comes with his Megazord piece, which I already showed off, and then he comes also with this holster, and then the Blade Blaster here. Oh, Tommy. We'll set you up later. But with the like Blade Blaster in its sealed up mode right here. And I think that's probably the most disappointing of the bunch accessories-wise. I wasn't too mad, or as much as other people were about the accessories, but I feel like he could have at least come with one other Blade Blaster, that's right, Blade Blaster mode, like either in its laser mode or its dagger mode, just something to give him other than, you know, this folded up one. But yeah. The articulation pretty much stands for all of them. There's some slight stuff to mention with Tori, but so I'm not going to cover it with every one, so that would be redundant because it's all the same base mold. But as you can see here, he also looks pretty good. Something I like in particular about Reds is I like the embellished look right here of the helmet on these little grooves. I think it kind of gives it an almost stylized look where it still looks accurate, but it looks a little bit different. And I kind of like that because we have so many MMPR Red figures, whether they're standard releases or fun, weird releases, but he's like easily one of the most used figures or Rangers or whatever, and I like the kind of stylized look that kind of separates him. But the suits, or the designs on the MMPR suits are pretty basic, so there's not a whole lot you could mess up, but he's just an overall pretty nice looking figure. As you can see there, the belt also well done. Not like cooked. But yes, so you'll go back over in the corner, and let's go ahead and get Tori, since she seems to want to come up here. So as you can see, the Ninja Storm Rangers, in addition to their hands, the only hands they get, and the Megazord pieces, is they all come with two accessories, one of which being their Ninja Sword in its holster, or sheath, or whatever, which you can snap onto the back, and then it outside, I am a great talker, but I mean, I think that's good. Definitely it would have been weird if they didn't come with it. And honestly, this might be the thing I'm most bothered by, but I wish you could take this piece out of here, because you can't have him posing with the swords and then have this on the back with the sword unless they're using someone else's. It bothers me because in the show, you can't maybe always tell, but still, when they're wielding the swords, you can still see this on the back. It's almost a part of their suits, kind of like I would kind of describe it like the Mystic Force cape. It's just kind of a part of the suit. It makes it stand out. So like that's just a small little thing that kind of bothers me. It's honestly a really small nitpick, but of all the weapon things, that bothers me the most, oddly enough. But as you can see, just from looking at it, these are all Ninja Storm 1, spoiler alert, are also very nice looking figures. I think the sculpt is really well done on them. Also, the proportions are accurate, which I think is always important, so that the helmets don't look too like fat or too skinny. I think they did a good job on that. I think the color on it looks good all around. I think they did a really good job on the female body sculpt. It's got some of those more muscular tendencies, but it doesn't feel like overly muscular. The boobs are maybe a little bit embellished, but not so bad. The details on the swords, as I just kind of showed you, were just kind of basic. I think the standard sword looks better than the holstered sword. Now, the articulation for her is she can basically do most of the stuff the guys can do. She does have a bit of a different waist. She actually functions on a more traditional figure waist, which I would compare more to Figuarts than the sort of hinge that the guys get. And the only other thing worth mentioning is that her skirt does hinder the articulation of her legs a little bit. It is a smidge flexible, and over time, and if you stretch it out a little bit, by like maybe doing this or whatever, you can get a little bit more movement. But other than that, they're all the same. The only two things of note is the different waist joint, and then obviously the skirt piece, giving her a little bit of trouble around the legs, which is pretty typical fare for Ranger figures. That's been happening since they've been giving him solid skirt pieces instead of just like molding it into the leg, which can just look weird, honestly. Now I'm just trying to get him to stand. I like how I talked about they don't fall over, which they don't from like the loose joint problems, but then like as soon as I'm trying to get him to stand up, we have all these problems. So I'm trying to just get her to stand up, man. Just do it. Okay, good enough. She'll probably fall over within seconds of me putting her back. Okay, so now we got good old Shane right here in a pose. They're all breaking the rules, and I'm pretty sure his sword's facing the wrong way. I might have them all facing the wrong way, but at least they match now. So good old Shane here. Again, quality detail there. Really nice shine to the helmet that's picking up off the light on the camera as well. As you can see, you can get him in really nice poses, like with this two hands on the sword on the side, which I actually always have a really hard time getting that pose with figure arts. So I think that's one area that they excel in a little bit. But yeah, let's kind of just get it out of that pose a smidge just so that you can see a little bit more of it. It's again, these are all pretty basic suits. So there's not a lot of details you can mess up. You do have a little bit of discrepancy there that happens when you know, activate its joint. That sounds really weird way of putting it, but yeah. Otherwise, very nice looking figure. So let's go ahead and get to Dustin here. That's gonna, there we go, better. All right, Dustin, the last one here. So again, there's not a whole lot to say other than, again, I think it looks good. Just this is kind of giving you just a closer look at the figure. I think they look really good. I'm pretty pleased with them, look-wise especially. I guess one thing I can show off is all the morphers just kind of look like that. They're pretty basic in color. That's a look at his. Just one last little look at Dustin. Dustin checks in. Literally, that's what he was doing. He was just literally checking in on Foursquare. But then you have like reds here. Oh, I'm not used to where the camera is. Reds here, and they're all pretty basic. So, but that's not that huge of a deal, just because I guess there's a lot of things I'm used to in terms of the way some of these look. So overall, how do these like stack up? First wave, this new collector's line. Overall, I would say that my giant hairy arm just came into frame. But I would say overall vibe for these for me is pretty positive. There's definitely some flaws. I'm not as mad about the accessories. I think there could be some tweaking definitely in the amount of accessories and what exactly they come with. I think the loose feeling is like half a problem, half not. I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's just kind of a weird portion of it. But so, without going on too long, I guess I would just say about these is that they definitely have some flaws in the system, but they're still definitely good figures that I think are worth taking a look at. Especially if you can't find figure arts for affordable, even though a lot of them are cheaper now, or you just don't like them. Definitely at least at least worth taking a look at some of your favorites. I think they're pretty nice figures. I think they definitely really exceed in the Poseability area, excuse me, because that sort of looser feel is kind of a bonus. It makes it feel easier to work with, and there are actually some poses that I can get them in easier than figure arts. Figure arts are poses that I've actually struggled to get my Ninja Storm figure arts in, that I was able to get these guys in within seconds. So yeah, definitely flawed, but worth a look. Say that for the third time. I apologize about any weirdness in this review just from the different setup I had to use. But anyway, until next time, make sure to check out the Crazy Podcast at writersrangerebels.com. And of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Till next time, Dustin Ryder, signing out.